Hello everyone, today I'm here to review for you Final Girl. This is a very horror-y themed solo only game, though technically you could co-op it and get away with it. This is, however, for one player and one player only. Not normally my sort of game, and horror isn't necessarily my sort of thing. But I have enjoyed this. Let's go roughly over how the game plays, and I'll give you my pros, my cons, and just know I did get a bit of a reviewer discount for this, though I still did actually pay some money for it. So first of all, you'll notice I've got two boxes, and that's because one box of Final Girl is, well, actually pretty useless to you. You need the core set, and you need what is called like a feature film box. And if you're eagle-eyed, you may notice I've actually got another feature film box just back there. And that's because once you've got the core box, you can go and get any of the feature film sets, and you can even do mixing and matching, and we'll definitely be touching on that in the review. So let's go through how the simple sort of experience works. This is one of the starter sets, and then we'll sort of divulge from there. As a bit of an overview, you are going to start with an action phase where you as the Final Girl are going to play your cards, spend your time, but hopefully not all of it, because you're then going to use what's remaining of your time to do the planning phase. Then the killer is going to strike back, depending on how hyped up they are, how many victims they've previously killed. That's going to give them their attack damage, their movement values, and you're going to be flipping terror cards from a deck. They may or may not have dark abilities revealed and things like that. They're going to basically be trying to get to victims or get to the Final Girl and do damage. If a victim has been killed off, then there's going to be panic sort of ensued to close by victims. They're going to scatter around a bit, and then there is an upkeep phase. Let's dive into sort of the actions to give you a bit more of an idea. So at the start of the game, you're going to have access to 6 okay free cards. Now they're free to buy in planning, but not free to necessarily play. When you play a card, you're going to be rolling the dice to see what your outcome is. The number of dice is dependent on the current horror level, so the more horror, the less dice you're actually going to be rolling. Less because you're looking for successes. Now sometimes a star is there and it's just a success on like a 5 and a 6, but on a 3 and a 4 there's a 2 card symbol. You can discard any 2 cards from your hand to make it a success. And you might want to do that because depending on the card you've played, maybe it's walk, sprint, an attack, search, a variety of different things, well, a double success, well, that's going to give you the best possible outcome. Maybe you move the full distance, but if you'd gone down to only one success, maybe you don't move as far and you spend a bit more time. On certain things, if you don't get any successes, it can actually just outright end your turn as well as costing you a load of time. You're going to be moving around the map, sort of herding villages with you. You can always sort of bring 2 along with you, apart from into the killer zone, and you're going to walk them hopefully to exits, and that's going to give you some little power-ups, some little boosts when you put those escaped victims onto your sort of character card. They're giving you little bonuses, maybe 1 extra health, maybe a free movement, something like that, maybe even the top card from a search pile or something along those lines. And when you've filled out your character card, it will upgrade, giving you your Final Girl special power. There's a variety of them, depending on which Final Girl you use. That's the power you've got for the rest of the game. As well as that, you might be going to specific locations, which at the start of the game, you'll have sorted some search piles out, and the top card is normally face up in each of those, so you can go to that location, and if you've got the search card, and you get a good horror roll, you can take that top card. Or maybe you can take the top 2 cards, have a look if you're double successful, and go, ooh, I'll have that, but I will put that back on the top of the deck, of that search pile, rather than at the bottom. That sort of thing. Of course, all this is great, and yeah, you want to save victims to get your power, you want to get items to help you, but at some point you're going to need to take out the killer themselves. The way this works is that both you and the killer have a number of health. Obviously, the killer's got a lot more health normally than you. Unfortunately, the killer often has a lot more health than you, but both of you have the potential for a second chance. So let's say you've got 6 health as your character, well, you'll have 5 health tokens and then a sort of a final health token. This is a special one, it's not one of the hearts, but when you're down to only that, you get a little bonus, an extra horror roll dice. That's quite nice. But also, if you do get that health taken away from you, well, there's a chance it's not game over. And that's also a chance it's not game over if the killer has also just been taken out. Could you flip that tile over and see if it's got any hearts? If it has, either you or the killer, whoever was nearly taken out, comes back to life with a little bit of health left. And that can be quite scary. So you've moved around, saved some victims, searched a bit. Well, you've got some cards left. Maybe you don't want to spend them all, and you probably shouldn't. Then you go on to the planning phase. Now, a lot of the cards are going to have cost you some time. You start with 6 each round. There's ways to get more. There's sort of a variety of cards. You can also discard cards to get some time. Now, in the planning phase, you're going to spend everything you've got left to try and get some new, better cards into your hand. After round 1, the cards that you've just spent don't yet go back into the market, but in the next round they will be back available. So they sort of get like a round time out effectively. But you're going to be buying new stuff. So instead of a walk, maybe you buy the sprint card allowing you to go further, maybe a better attack rather than just a weak attack, and that sort of thing. Yes, we've got to the stage where the killer then fights back. Just like any cooperative style board game, that sort of thing, once you've done your thing, the game fights back. And in this case, the killer is often going to try and get some victims under his belt. Hans, as an example, which is in the starter set that I've got, well, he doesn't really move just automatically, but will take out a victim if they're on their space, on Hans's space. So hopefully you'll have moved some victims away from him. Then you'll flip over a terror card, and this can be good or bad. There's a couple of good ones in there, and you'll have shuffled this deck between some killer terror cards and some location terror cards. So you'll never quite know what's going to come out of this deck. And you're going until that deck runs out, and at that point, well, things get a little bit harder for you because the killer sort of levels up. But normally you turn over a terror card, or at least the first half of the game, the terror card's revealed. Maybe they are moving depending on how their sort of bloodlust level is. So maybe at the start of the game they're moving 1 or 2 spaces. Maybe later in the game they're moving much more. And it will tell you, are they targeting victims, targeting the final goal, either, sort of whichever's closest. Sometimes they'll just stand still rather ominously, but maybe they power up, maybe they get a victim which powers them up a little bit anyway. Those tarot cards are never good, but you flip it over and see what they do. If there was a victim killed, then any victims still on the killer space will sort of panic and spread out. Finally, there is the upkeep phase. This is going to allow you to maybe change items from your backpack into your hand slots. Certain weapons maybe take 1 hand symbol, some have 2, so do certain other items, and some you can just use from your backpack. But that gives you a little bit of a time to do that, as well as just check, make sure there's nothing that needs to trigger in the upkeep phase, which some killers or items do have effects like that. And then it's back to the top. You're going again, doing your actions, planning, the killer goes, panic, upkeep, and so on until either the final girl is killed or the killer is killed. And a nice little caveat is that if they both were to die at the same time, the final girl has made the ultimate sacrifice and you still win. So let's start off with the production value. And It's one of the highlights of Final Girl. It seems really weird to say, but it's super satisfying actually getting the game to the table, as you literally are getting the box to the table. It's got these magnetic flaps that come off not just one side of the box, but both sides. So one side is the killer, one side is the map, and that's what you're getting from one of these feature film boxes. You're getting a location, you're getting a killer, and you're literally able to take the outsides of the box off, put it down, and sort of, well, not quite straight away start playing, but that's a really cool thing that keeps, well, the box nice and protected, but also you've got that game literally coming off the box. Now you can get things like mini upgrades to be the killers, the final girls, etc. But there's some nice meeply porn-like things that are going to represent the final girl, the killer, and the rest of the victims, as well as special victims, because certain events or tarot cards might introduce, like, remove this victim, normal victim, and put the blue one in. That's now a special character that might be good or bad for you as the final girl. One thing about that is that the killer is red and the final girl is purple, and in the wrong lighting they're very close. I think it would have been great if they were just slightly different, like colour wise, but overall the production is really cool because it allows you to unfold all the boxes. And right, setup took me, even in the first time, I'd never played before, 10 minutes, which sounds like quite a long time. And for me, for a solo game, I normally want it to be hitting the table and going. But despite it taking that long, most of that is actually shuffling cards, making sure the market is set up, and you're doing that rather than just having a pile of cards, because it makes playing easier. And a lot of the production value, be it from you open the map up and along the top it's got like, right, these are the locations that you can search in, so when you shuffle the item cards you place them in the sort of the right area of the board. A lot of the production value, even though setup takes 10 minutes, it's to make the game flow and play easier. As I sort of alluded to while I was explaining it, there's a number of aspects just within one box that really do add replayability. The tarot cards, for instance, you take the killer ones, you take the location ones, you shuffle them up, and you're not going to be using all of them. You're only using like 10 of those tarot cards. So a load of them go back into the box. You could play an entire another game pretty much and have not seen the same tarot card. And then there's them coming out in different orders, combinations. Setup is different. There's different setup cards where all of a sudden there's a load of victims on like the Happy Campers one, where all of the victims are like near the campfire or something, or they're spread out. And that can be quite different as you're starting the game. The items that you're going to find, you're not always going to have all of the items in play. You're not always going to, well, you're not going to be able to really have a chance to get all of the items, maybe a few of them to help you along your journey, and you probably should get them because they're often quite helpful. Maybe making your attack better, allowing you to heal a wound or something like that. So items are helpful and different items are going to come out. And then after that, the killer, they have sort of different cards that you're going to be putting in, finale cards, dark power cards that you're going to be putting in. There's even one, not sure why you'd use it, that's like, this is an extremely hard dark power, a dark ability. I don't need it to be a harder game, but it's there if you want the additional challenge, if you are beating the game. And if you're beating the game that regularly, well done. But you've got that, you've got different events that are going to come out. Like I suggested, maybe a victim is replaced with like your boyfriend or just a certain other character, or different things like that that's just going to change things up. And that is before you get a second box. And that means I've got a different killer and a different location, different final girls. They are all compatible together, so I can take one location and the other killer and combine them rather than the ones that they necessarily come with. So I could use the Evomorph killer with the Camp Happy Trails map, and it would be a very different experience because it's a different killer, so it will work in slightly different ways. It's got different rules. The hands one, great, because it's nice and simple. There's not really any additional rules, but a lot of the other boxes tweak things up. For example, the Evomorph will actually vanish at times. Well, that is horrific to try and plan against, and things like that. So you can see just by even having one box, you've got a lot of variety and replayability. And I can kind of see why people have gone and bought like a big box which has loads of feature films in it for a stupid amount of replayability. But what good is replayability if the game itself isn't necessarily good? There's some great aspects of this. First of all, your time and your cards. They are like stamina systems in other games where it's like you run out of cards, you can't do anything more. You run out of time, you can't do anything more. So you really are using them very sparingly, and you're trying to sometimes push your luck and do that one extra thing. Sometimes it will work for you, sometimes it will backfire. You won't get the horror roll you're looking for, and maybe you don't want to discard the cards to turn that partial success into a full success, and then something bad might be happening to you, sort of thing. Or it's just wasting time that you are hoping to use to sort of play another card from your hand. And running out of cards, well, that can mean the next round is super small. Running out of time, well, that's going to be really bad for you as you're not able to buy much then, or maybe anything, from the market for the next round, leaving you with very few choices. But normally you do have lots of choices from your cards. What order are you going to do? What do you want to risk? Is it worth running past the killer? You can do that, but normally means you're quite close to them, so you might get targeted, sort of thing. And when it comes to the planning phase, which I really do like, you've got this huge market that you can buy from. And you look at the big cards, like it costs like 5-6 time, and you're like, I really want that. It looks like it's really going to help me do a load of damage to the killer. But I can't afford to spend all my time on that one card. I need to buy a search card, buy a sprint card, buy these other cards, and then maybe I'll work up to it. And I like that. It gives you the options, and you can either screw it up or do really well based on your decisions. Being a solo game, there isn't another player to be playing as the killer, so you do need to sort of do the things that the killer, like the terror cards or just their ability cards, are telling you. They're really, really simple to follow though. Often it's like effect, arrow, so you know exactly the order to apply them, to step through them. It's like, right, boots, which means they're moving, but like with who it's targeting. Is it a victim, a final girl, either, and then it will go for sort of normally which is closest. Is it then is the killer then attacking? What are they doing? Like, is it a double attack? That can be bad because it can raise its bloodlust multiple times, meaning in the future it's moving further around the map if it needs to, and things like that. And actually the killer is very easy to run. Alright, I haven't played all the boxes. I'm to be honest mostly talking about hands because I've played against him most, or with him most. Very simple to run sort of that killer. And the Evomorph, there's a bit more going on because there's extra rules and stuff, but on the whole, it means you do the killer's stuff and it's back to you to do your turn. You're not sort of spending a load of time working out what they're supposed to be doing, and I really like that. And I was a bit worried about that going in, so it's good to see that that sort of worry wasn't really needed. Theme-wise, Final Girl really does seem to smash it out the park from the boxes that I have seen. Be that sneaking around the ship and, well, trying to go from room to room and make it along the corridors to get, like, you know, I need to go through these corridors because I can't just get across there. Or, like, in the camp, you've got, like, this lake in the middle and it's like, I wanted to get to over there to search. and like you're constantly worrying about the killer, well, not only chasing you down, but chasing victims down. So you're wanting to go and rescue them, even if it's maybe not the best thing for you to do. Searching, just all of it, it builds into what you'd expect from a sort of feature horror film. You know, the main character running away a little bit, trying to save some people, hopefully getting the items that might help them defeat the killer just at the end. And it comes down to some real tension as the health of both you and the killer start to dwindle. And then there's that reveal at the end of, right, you've taken the killer out, you flip that token over, oh no, they've still got one extra health, they come back to life. And well, hopefully you won't die that round, because that feels, and it's happened, that felt really bad for me, where I was like, I've done it, and then they came back with health and absolutely walloped me, because I'd sort of risked it all to do that final hit. But absolutely brilliant twists and turns that you get, and you really do feel like you're constantly in fear of what the killer is going to do next. So overall, then, this is coming from someone that typically will just go and play a video game rather than playing a solo game. Yes, the setup takes like 10-ish minutes each time you're playing, but that when you've set it up nicely, it makes the whole playing experience really nice and easy. Like the market's nicely laid out. You've got the search piles for the different locations in the right places. The events are within reach. All that sort of goodness. So it really does mean the playing is just enjoyable. And it's enjoyable, be it on your turn planning, buying from that market, or just quickly running through what the killer's doing and getting back to your action sort of thing. Now, my issue is that for me personally, right now, getting a game to the table for an hour and a half isn't necessarily the easiest thing for me. But I'm definitely excited to have Final Girl on the shelf, so when I do have the time, I can go back to the game and try again to overcome the killer. And the fact that I've got only 2 feature film boxes, and that gives me 2 different maps, 2 different killers, and a whole load of variety, well, that's just absolutely brilliant for me. Do you need, like, I think there's like easily 10 different killer location boxes? I don't think you do, unless you're going to be able to get this game to the table absolutely loads. But would I recommend you picking up that starter set so you can play against hands? Yes, I do. I can see why it gets so much buzz. And like I say, it might be hard for me to actually get it played, but I will be looking forward to playing it again at some point soon. Anyway, that is Final Girl. Have you played it? Which is your favourite killer? Maybe I'll go and get another box at some point, and maybe your suggestion will be the one that I go for. Let me know in the comment section below, and until next time, have a hopefully not killer-filled good day.